Hey YouTube. So, along with building custom motorcycle parts, I also think that things like gardening and sustainability are pretty cool too. So I have this new project going on, and I know what you're thinking. How am I going to incorporate the lathe into this project? And I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, I'm going to try to grow some hydroponic spinach indoors and see how it does. So I planted some burpee spinach. It should be ready to harvest in 48 days. And I planted a bunch of it. We have 3 overachievers, and I don't know what the rest are doing. These are just little plastic net pots with some rock wool and some clay pebbles sitting in this little Tupperware container, and right now this is just water. So what I want to build today is a better situation for these spinach plants so that I can set up a true hydroponic setup and hopefully harvest some spinach in 48 days. So what I ended up getting is this Eco Caddy off of online, and it's designed for table scraps, food scraps, that sort of thing. You put them in here and they will compost down. I think if I had bought it for that, I would be pretty disappointed, especially because this label says that this is a 6-gallon container, and my eye isn't the best, but here's a 1-gallon container next to it, and I don't think I would be able to put 6 of these into here. So I do think this label is incorrect. Also, for a composting bin, it doesn't really seal that well, and the plastic is a little bit flimsy, but for what I need it for, it will be perfect. It was cheap, and it's black plastic that is thick enough to prevent light from getting through. I don't know if that will show up well or not, but that way the root system of the spinach won't end up rotting due to sunlight. So this seemed like a quick and easy compact package that I could use for growing this spinach. I just need to make a couple of holes in the top for these net pots, and that should do the trick. I also got a cheap air pump, an air stone, a one-way check valve, and this is very important because if for whatever reason the air pump fails, this could potentially drain all the water back out of the container, and then not only do your plants not have the water they need, but you also end up with a mess. So these are definitely important. But in a general sense, oxygen or air is very important for the root systems, from what I've read. So definitely want to have an air pump in there. These are just some extra net pots. I got a pretty cheap water pump as well to circulate the water and pump it up to these net pots. So the idea is that the air stone will be oxygenating the water, and then the water pump will be pumping it up and dripping it on top of the plant, and it will drip through and then back in, and that way the plant always has the water and nutrients that it needs. And some extra hose to connect all that up, as well as some fittings to connect that stuff together as well. So what do I need the lathe for? Well, this pump came with 2 nozzles on it. I guess this is a 1/2 inch, and then it also came with a 1/4 inch, but the 1/4 inch nozzle doesn't come close to fitting the 1/4 inch tube that I bought. so I don't know which one's wrong or if it's an OD or ID thing, but what I need to do is make a new fitting for this pump that will let me attach and use this hose on it. So that shouldn't be too big a deal. And then also, in the meantime, I got this just simple low power LED red and blue light. So while the spinach is little, this should be plenty. And then also for the nutrients, I got General Hydroponics, some nutrient solutions. So the Flora Grow and the Flora Micro is what I'm going to be using. And my intent is just to follow the instructions on here and see what happens. So hopefully nothing too complicated there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is mark off and drill 4 holes in the top of this container so I can drop these net pots in. So that shouldn't be too bad. Now that the holes are drilled, I'm going to do a test fit just to make sure that everything is good. And this looks like it will be perfect. And this lid is kind of nice in that you can lift it up and you'll be able to inspect the water level, see how the roots are doing. And so that should end up being pretty nice. Also, as a side note, as usual, I'm going to be linking in the description to all the stuff that I'm using, so if anybody wants to recreate this project for themselves, it should be pretty straightforward to do so. Just go down that list and get all the same stuff. The next thing that I need to do is, well, the things left on the list of things to do anyway, are to drill a hole or make some kind of notch somewhere so that this cord can come through. That should be pretty easy. And then I have to make a new one of these so I can actually use this pump with this hose that I bought. So since that one's the more exciting one and requires the use of the lathe, I'll go ahead and do that one now, and hopefully that doesn't take too long. With the new nozzle done, now I'm going to carve a piece out of here to clearance for this wire to come through for the pump. To do that, I'm just going to use a Dremel tool with a, I guess, end mill type attachment and just carve it out. And that should work pretty nicely. Another thing that I'm going to do to help hold this cable or this wire in place is I had a zip tie somewhere. So I'm going to drill 2 small holes on either side of this to mount the wire, the plug for the pump with a zip tie, just so it doesn't get pulled around inside here if this gets moved around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I don't even need this, I'm going to mark either side of the hole. And that should be perfect for mounting the zip tie. So the idea would be this goes in here, the cord comes out, I thought it was a new kind of silent zip tie for a second. There we go. This can tighten down here, the lid can close, everything's secure, and the pump can be on the bottom comfortably. And that works out nicely. The next thing that I have to do is add a couple more holes. One of them for the hose for the air stone. So that pump needs to be outside this container with the air stone inside the container. And then I have to add a hole for the hose for the water pump, because the water pump needs to be inside the container, but the water needs to make its way outside the container. So first, for the air stone, I'm going to add a quick hole right here. And then for the water pump, I'm going to add a quick hole right here. And that should be good enough for this to go through and stay relatively secure. Oops. So that can go down in there. For the water pump, that can go through here as well. And it's also worth noting at this point that if you're going to be following, or if you're going to be inspired by this design, make sure you leave enough hose on the bottom side of this lid so that when you open it, it doesn't pull the pump. And that should be plenty. So at this point, I'm just going to give it a clip and add one of these T's. Next, since I want to be able to hydrate all 4 of these plants, I'm going to be adding some more hose and some more clips, kind of around in a circle until all the plants can get water. So now, when the pump turns on, it will fill this ring and should distribute water to all 4 plants here. And that will be very nice. With the container cleaned out, it's time to mix some nutrient solution so the plants can be healthy. This is just a gallon of water. It's easy to measure out a gallon if you have a gallon container. And these can mix nicely into a gallon. So I need a 1/4 tablespoon, or I'm sorry, a 1/4 teaspoon of each one of these. And I have this syringe that holds 2 teaspoons, so it makes it very nice and easy to mix. So we'll just get a 1/4 teaspoon of this. And rinse that out. And also a 1/4 teaspoon of this. That should be about it. Also, probably it's a good idea to write on this. Don't drink. I don't know what would happen if you do drink it, but it probably isn't a good thing to do. So now Make sure it's nice and mixed up. We have our nozzle that we made, and we can connect that to this. Put this in the pump. So I would say this is more of a maybe 1.5 gallon bucket, not a 6 gallon bucket. But at this point, get everything in there, close the lid, and we can plug it in and see if it works. So this should be very nice. That's exactly what the plants need. And then we can also try plugging in this little air compressor. And that should be very nice. Let's get a closer look at that. So here you can see again the nutrient solution is being cycled through right where the plants would live. And then if you look in here, you can see that this little air stone is making quite a few bubbles, which will keep the water nice and healthy, keep the nutrient solution nice and healthy for the plants. And now the only thing left to do is put these into their new home and hopefully watch them grow. And in about 48 days I can do a second follow-up or another follow-up video. This one's being lazy, but we'll stick them in there anyway. And hopefully I'll have some spinach to show you. So that should be it for this video. Hopefully you like this. It was a little bit different than normal, but I do think it's something else that's interesting. I think growing your own food is fascinating and also useful. Maybe not the cheapest way to do it, but it's definitely makes you appreciate where it comes from a bit more. So if you like this, please like and subscribe, and if you want to see more videos like this, definitely let me know in the comments section. And this is mostly an experiment. I really have no idea how it's going to turn out, so hopefully it turns out pretty well and we can do this again. So thanks for watching, and like and subscribe.